Hello.
Hey.
Super prepared.
Yes, welcome to another scintillating. That was your word. And we need to find new words, man. I feel like we
We
are
have to have a
just
thesaurus. We need a
we're
thesaurus that will give us synonyms for all the kind of because we've gone through the entire lexicon of the English language at this point. And we need alternatives.
how can we find a word that defines the fact that we are so awesome? That
Well,
we
we need to coin a word. We need to come up with a new word.
Yeah,
That's the thing. Yeah.
yeah. We need to find something for
We
awesome.
can we can do a competition to our audience of hundreds of thousands of people who will come up with a good one.
Yeah, exactly.
Podcast
Exactly.
Mac podcast face, if we ask the Brits.
Oh man. Well, welcome to another episode of Standard Deviation Podcast. Me and Simo haven't seen each other in a long time.
Mm. So
But
I gotta
nobody knows.
Yeah, I got to do a boring rant because it's really boring to talk about the weather, but I there's just something messed up because it's we had in Finland we had a lovely stretch of like 50 to 20 degrees
Yeah.
Celsius just a couple of weeks ago. So we brought out all of our, stuff that we put out in the yard, like the sandbox was open and we had the kids' toys and the bicycles. We went cycling around town and it was really, really fun. And now we've got like 25 centimeters of snow on the ground again, and all the like it was like ice rain yesterday, so all of the public transportation is also completely messed up, which is weird because we get snow every year in Finland and still the public transportation manages to. Yeah, so it was a chore getting our kids to daycare, but like I don't you know I don't want to rant about it because weather is weather, but it's it's getting really, really annoying not having that even spring come our ways because this is the winter. We're really looking forward to spring,
I know.
let
It
alone
was
summer.
the same in Romania because like 3 weeks ago, it was 34 degrees. Yes,
Yeah,
I'm serious. Like it was
yeah,
hot. I was in t-shirt and shorts.
yeah,
We went back, and for the last week, it's been snow. It's
yeah,
raining, and I'm back to hoodies. And I was just telling my husband this morning, like I haven't wore winter thick clothes all winter.
yeah,
So now in April, and it's depressing and it messes up with your mood. And
yeah,
I'm not as strong as I appear to be because like every little shit just affects me right now.
yeah,
It's like, oh, it's raining. Well, fuck this day.
yeah.
Oh man, yeah, no, I
Like,
get it. I get it.
yeah,
And I hope spring comes to to
yeah, but
Finland.
at the same time, it's kind of conflicting because with climate change and the like overall temperatures going up, I don't think we're allowed to complain about it being cold anymore because that's going to be the thing that people are going to want in the future, like get away from the hot countries and come to the cool north. But it still messes things up, and we have we have renovation work going on in our house because we're going to sell it at some point. So we have all this renovation stuff going on in the yard, and now it's completely paused because
Yeah,
nobody can drive over. So it's weather sucks,
it does. It does. It
and the
does.
predictions are just so like well, it is one of the most difficult things to predict. But even one day apart, it seems impossible to say whether there's going to be like 20 centimeters of snow or just a small layer or whatever, because that's all the difference. We have already like we in Finland. So here we have like the law requires cars to have winter tires from October to March.
Oh,
And after March and before October, it's kind of depending on the weather. Um, but we switched to our summer tires already because it was so hot. And now we can't go anywhere with our car because you can't drive on like 20 centimeters of snow with summer tires because they're
of
completely,
course.
well, not flat,
Yeah.
but they don't have the grooves. So now we're kind of car locked as well. So luckily there's a grocery store close by, just a walking distance. But yeah,
But you're
it's
lucky.
getting to
It
me.
means you don't have to see people.
Well, that is the good thing. That is definitely the good thing. So and I don't have to like get feedback from strangers who come who I meet on the street as I usually do. But yeah, and I'm usually super non-faced about this stuff. I don't care. Like I actually like the snow, but today it just all kind of piled up, like figuratively and literally on the there was just so much snow coming on the night. It messed up the renovations. It messed up the daycare stuff.
So
So yeah,
everyone is gonna
snow.
hear a very ranty and angry podcast episode today because it snowed.
Yeah, no, like I'm still chill. I'm not angry. I'm just you know just thrown off.
Yeah, I know what you
It's
mean. Yeah.
weird. It's really, really weird.
honestly, in Romania, there hasn't been 4 seasons for the
Yeah,
last 5 years. Like it's
yeah,
just either cold as fuck or hot as fuck.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
two seasons.
yeah,
So when it snows here, it's like it snows and tomorrow is 30 degrees and it's like
yeah.
very, yeah. Anyway, talking about ranting, I'm just like Simo, I think I'm getting old, man. Like I'm officially getting old. I'm turning, how much am I turning this year? 34? 34, yeah, I'm turning 34. You're the same age as me, aren't you? Or you're older than me?
I'm 40 this year. I'm
Oh
gonna be 40 in
shit.
July. Yeah,
Oh, okay, you
yeah.
win. Okay, you win. Never mind. Yeah, but we have similar birthdays. I think it's a Cancer thing when you just like get grumpy.
Yeah, it could be. And we're
Yeah,
talking about the horoscope, not the disease at this time.
exactly.
Yeah, good.
No, but
Just to clarify to all the listeners who might be worried that what are we talking about?
I
Yeah,
feel
the
like I'm
zodiac sign
getting,
Cancer. Yes,
yeah, we're
which is a weird
Cancer.
word for a crab.
Exactly, we're two crabs.
Yeah,
that's how
we're crabby,
that's how we
super
should
crabby.
rename the podcast next year. Two
Yeah,
crabs.
yeah.
No, it's just I've become very like I get easily annoyed. I don't know if this is like something all people do because I remember my parents used to get angry about, I don't know, if there was a cat eating food in front of the building and my dad was getting angry at the cat. It's like kicking the cat away when he was feeding birds. But I get angry about this AI shit really, really. And I'm trying to like have like an inner conversation with myself to see what bothers me, to address like what are my daddy issues for why I am getting pissed off. But and again, it's like I think it's my fault because I spend so much time reading other people's opinions, which
Mm,
it
which you
happens.
shouldn't do. Yeah.
Yeah, so I've been reading a lot. I think what I'm pissed off about lately is that everyone is trying to make AI simple,
Mm,
and it's not. It's just like such a confusion when it comes to AI, where people think it's just commercial models like GPT or
mm,
Claude or Llama or whatever, and they come up with this prompts and instructions that they give to a language model, and they have the impression that that's what AI is. And what pisses me off is that there's not much respect for data science and data scientists. And I've seen instances on social media where people that are marketers or whatever have no business with machine learning. They don't understand data
mm,
collection or engineering or anything. Shit on data scientists and say like, oh, I don't need to know machine learning or what fine tuning is or whatever. I can just prompt my GPT to do this and I can create my own agent.
mm,
And like, I think the reason why I take it personal is because I work only with data scientists and I know how much work is behind building a model and fine tuning it and feeding it the right data and all the privacy considerations you need to take before you put data into something.
mm,
So I think even if AI is mainstream right now and everyone and it's fun to use it, like I use it
mm.
myself too, to use, this commercial LLMs, but I just think that just because you can use it and it's mainstream, it doesn't make it easy. And I don't think everyone should have access to it. It's fucked up, I know. I
No,
know.
it's no. I get what you're coming from, and it's obvious that especially with emerging technologies, you have this because you have you have the people who do the work, and then you have the people who benefit from it, and that's like I think that's part of any kind of technological evolution. Then you're going to have this kind of phase where the lines are a bit blurred. But I don't think that that's so different from any kind of abstraction. We're, for example, when we use JavaScript and write a web page, not even Java, let's say we use a CMS
Yeah.
that you can just use to drag and click and create a website. You're like, hey, wow, this web thing is really easy. It's so easy to create a website. And you're kind of ignoring the base layer of those who built the abstraction, those who built the JavaScript, those who built the machine language, and those who built like the assembler code, and those who built the little chips that interact with each other. So I think that I completely understand where you're coming from, but we are at an inflection point where the abstractions themselves are removing the user group who use the abstractions away from the people who built them.
Yeah.
And it's just the separation is just going to be bigger in the future, where we're going to have people who are experts at using the UIs and who are experts at writing really good prompts.
Yeah.
But we're just now in this weird phase where the lines are blurred, where when we type a prompt into ChatGPT, I don't think many people understand what they're actually doing is working with a predefined set of variables, with a predefined data set, and they're just instructing an agent to do something for them. And
Yeah.
if they are, and it's kind of understandable that some people are thinking, hey, I'm doing AI now, I'm actually creating stuff, when they're not, they're just working with an abstraction.
And I
But this
die
is just a,
inside every time.
yeah, I know, it is like that, but that's, I
What is it?
think, well, I mean, there are, of course, there are dicks who just who are deliberately being misguiding and misleading, because it's easier to sell an abstraction than a data scientist, I think.
Exactly.
Um, but um, but we are moving away from this, and at some point, it's going to be much clearer that the two worlds are different things. But we're still not there, because it is such a new technology in a way.
That's
But I
a
do.
more kinder way to frame it, Simo. I like
Well,
that.
I mean, well, because it's what we work with, like, or when we, when we work in organizations with data and web analytics data, and somebody builds a dashboard, and the dashboard has a toggle that lets you change the date range or whatever. And now, when some business bigwig is then using the dashboard, they're like, "Hey, I'm doing analytics. I'm changing the toggle. This is changing the data," and you're
Yeah.
like dying inside, because no, you're not doing analytics. You're working with a UI layer on top of the analytics work that I did for you. So it's just, I think that, computers and technology like this, just, it requires such incredible specialization to actually build the stuff, that
Yeah.
it's necessary to create those abstractions if you ever want it to become mainstream, or if you ever want to sell the idea. It's really difficult to sell the idea of an algorithm, um, and make it kind of, blast through the market. This is just my intuition about this. This is why I understand where you're coming from, but this is also why I'm prepared to give these people the slack, unless they are being deliberately idiots and just saying, unless they're like really thinking that they are creating something out of nothing without researching the thing. Then it's really annoying. And I know that there are people like that as well.
Yeah,
But yeah,
I guess it's just like the lack of education in the space. I'm really thinking about writing this. Remember when I wrote my guide, I'm really thinking about writing this AI guide for
yeah,
marketers, where I just explain how this shit works, because I think it's a lack of education. Because I wrote this article a while back with Jason Packer about the outside the role in the age of AI, something like that. I forgot the title, so you can see that I'm angry that I forgot the title, and I'm not angry. I'm just a bit butthurt. Let's be real. And basically, what people don't understand is exactly as you said earlier. When you're using commercial models, you're appealing to community knowledge. There's no outlier there. There's no individual thinking. There's nothing specialized or tailored or whatever. You're just addressing community knowledge. And if the community knowledge is stupid or it
mm,
doesn't make sense for your business context, it doesn't matter how much you can beautify or instruct the model with the prompt,
mm,
it's not going to give you that specialized result. So it's kind of like if you want to do something for a specific business, you won't be able to do that with the commercial LLMs because they're not safe, they're
mm,
unstable. And somebody said, "Yeah, but it does the same thing to me." And it's like, and I said to them, like, you can, it's like buying a house. You can buy a house made out of metal plates. It's still gonna do the same thing. It's not gonna rain inside, but would it be as sturdy as one made out of concrete?
mm,
So I think that's what bothers me is the lack of, education, and people like get so like distracted by the hype of it, which I understand
mm,
because I was also hype. But like when once I was like working with this commercial LLMs and going through Hugging Face and the models and trying to understand how this works, I also realized that this is not safe, or like this is not, and there's so many security breaches that happen with
mm,
OpenAI and whatnot, and they were spewing personal data at some point when you were
mm,
asking different things. So if you're using an API, it's not that safe. It's still a third party that you're collecting
mm,
data. So imagine you want the model to create predictive audiences or do RFM, and you're feeding it transactional data from your store.
mm.
That's personal data that you have right
Well, I
there.
mean, yeah, but I mean, this is. Well, I mean, there is a lot of education around this. Like, there are a million articles that explain quite thoroughly how LLMs work and how Gen AI works. It's just that people refuse to look at them. Like, why should they? Because it works for them. If there's a and this is about the overall. I think this is more about the overall, like, knowledge level of people, especially regarding data. is that people still don't understand the complexity of like downstream effects. If you send a piece of data somewhere and you expect it to just be limited to that one single data flow, if it's a public API, then you're so far off base. Like you're so far off base that I don't think this is more a judgment about you as a person and your own understanding of how the world of data works than anything restricted to a single tool like AI. Even though AI just exacerbates it, it just makes it, or not AI, but using LLMs and using Gen
LLMs,
A
yeah.
just makes it worse because it's a black box that you're sending the data to, and you're just you know
It's just praying for the best. That's
yeah,
what.
and you're assuming you're just working with a helpful assistant because that's how it's being manufactured. That it's like your little helpful assistant, virtual assistant, and you ask them questions, and of course they won't tell your questions to anyone, or of course your
Exactly.
data will be kept only privately between you two. So it is just a testament. This is why for all the grief that, for example, GDPR gets, this is its impossible mission. Its mission is to have an incentive for data controllers to map those data flows, but we're still not there. Like we're still having this discussion that, hey, don't share your personal data unwillingly, or personal data about your customers when you don't have a legal basis to do so, and when you don't know what the downstream effects will be. So
Yeah.
it's just a sign of times. AI is just one more tool into the heap. Or again, I'm saying AI. I mean LLMs are just one more
Yeah.
tool into the already incredibly large heap of tools that are black boxy or misusing data or collecting data beyond their purview. That's just where we are today, and it's the impossible task of regulators trying to curb this in. And that's why we probably have the AI Act coming in the EU, trying desperately to figure out how to combat this.
Yeah, that's the real problem. That's what like I'm thinking, because I do this at work and I know how much time
Yeah.
does it take to clean up data and to make sure that before you put it, if you're using GCP, and I do use GCP, I love
Mm.
all the suite of services you can find in Google Cloud Platform, but you strip the data out of everything before it gets in there. So you
Yeah.
have that control if you're using a transformer or an adapter instead of using an LLM that is commercial. So yeah, I think I'm a bit protective, and I have no purpose in the world to feel like this, Simo. Like I really don't recognize myself. Like this is the first time when I'm like that angry old
Yeah. Well, I
person
mean,
with a
you
stick.
just have, yeah, I mean, yeah. So that just means that you're not old enough yet. Because when you're old, everything becomes a battle for you. But now you're just getting older, so
Yeah.
now you still have you're now facing one battle. Well, you just have to pick your battles. Like, is this really something you want to waste your time on? And I know that like you have a lot of things going on in your life. So is this really something you want to yet
Uh,
have another thing to be aggressive about? and
exactly.
I'm not like tone policing you. I just know you really well, and I think that like
Yeah,
take
man.
the
I'm
like
just stuck with
take
a
this
bit.
energy that you now have and turn it into, if you turn that into like a super positive educational force, then you can kind
Yeah,
of kill
that's what
two
I'm
birds with one
thinking.
stone. Yeah, exactly.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm working. I told you yesterday when we talked that I'm working on this research paper about,
Yeah,
and I want to like share more with people. So remember, like last year, I was telling you that one of the use cases of natural language processing would be with search queries. So
yeah,
given that search and SERPs are pretty shit lately, so I don't even want to open that box. I was talking to my friend Krasimir, and I was saying to him like, what if we know what people think about before they reach your website? And he was like, that everyone wants that. What do you mean? So I said, what if we take this data source, which is the search queries that somebody has? Because there's like hundreds and thousands. Like even for my own small blog, I had 100,000 search terms. And the funny part is, I will tell you afterward. But we came with the hypothesis that we can use a model, we can use a transformer that that is able to understand textual intent. So in AI, when you determine if something is either reasonable, contradictive, or neutral based on a premise, it's called textual entailment. So for instance, imagine Frodo. You know Frodo. So Frodo has the One Ring, and he needs to destroy it in Mount Doom. That's his premise. That's the what he needs to do. So then, if you would come up with three hypotheses based on this premise, is that Frodo is going on a vacation, Frodo has a dangerous mission, or Frodo just likes to take long walks. So clearly, he's not going on a vacation. That's a contradiction, unless he really likes like hardcore shit. But you can obviously everyone saw the movie, so reasonable is that he's going on a dangerous mission. And the fact that he likes long walks, there's no telling, that if he likes long walks or not. It's a neutral thing. So it's funny because that's how actually me and Krasi figured this out. So we took the automotive industry because we do like paint. So the most researched, when it comes to car batteries, for example, we went with that one. The most popular query is, why are car batteries so expensive? So we took that query and we analyzed it, and the model was able to came up with different hypotheses. For instance, if somebody researches why are car batteries so expensive, it means that they want to purchase it, they understand the need of it, but they don't have enough information and benefits as to why it's so. They're looking for something to convince them. So we use this model. And we analyze search queries related to car batteries and cars, and we were able to categorize them in things related to performance and lifespan, lifestyle, pricing, and so on. And then from that, we were able to see if the searches were contradiction, reasonable, or neutral. And then the model tells you basically how to use this to improve landing pages, product pages. So in a nutshell, because this is getting nerdy. What we're trying to do is, if you have people searching for your products, in a way, we are telling you what are the categories of search, what is the sentiment that they have, is the contradiction, is it reasonable? And we're
Mm.
telling you if the search is related to when you're ready to make a decision or when you're just using for looking for information. And we were able to visualize it, and it looks great. And now this, if people, and actually everything is GCP, it's super cheap. It's like it's just a plug and a play. Obviously you need to know what you're doing with the model,
Mm.
and then you can visualize this. And then if you know what are your top searches, if you know the sentiment of the searches, and like how it affects people, you can, for instance, if you're selling car batteries, you could write an article about the benefits of a car battery and why should people pay for the car battery or whatever. I'm trying on purpose to not give you too many details because we're writing a research paper, and then afterwards they're not going to accept it. So this is something that has been on my mind, and it works and it's fun. And
Yeah.
I'm going to present this at Conversion Jam in Stockholm this year. I got invited to speak there, and I hope by that time I will be more coherent about it than I am right now. It's just that I don't want to give too much.
Yeah.
So,
No, that sounds like it. Yeah. So when are you going to release the paper?
oh man, well, when they accept it, because for this science papers, you have to apply to it
Mm.
and you have to pray, and we're still working on it because we need data and we're using like public data. I've also used this tool called Also Asked that Arno Hellman showed to me. So, and I also asked, if you input any type of thing like a brand or a product or whatever, they show you all the search terms related to that one. And then you can download as a CSV, so you can train the model based on those searches, which are Google searches.
Yeah.
So that's a safe data source to use that doesn't, do harm. So we went into the automotive part because it's nobody touches automotive. Everyone is like e-commerce, and it would be very easy to find cognitive dissonance. And cognitive dissonance, for everyone that doesn't know what it means, is basically having feelings that are contradicting to your self-perception or your image. So for
Yeah.
instance, if I don't know, if you say you care about sustainability, but you buy from Shane and Temu because they are cheap, it's kind of
Yeah.
doing something that contradicts your principles. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's kind of what we're doing. I hope it's going to be this year. So I assume because I'm so in deep with this shit, that's why I'm getting probably so sensitive about
Mm. It could be.
AI,
Yeah.
because it's hard. Like I had to take statistic courses. I had to take machine learning courses.
Yeah.
I died in statistics courses. Like I'm still
Yeah.
alive, but yeah, that's what it is. And excited to share more about it. We're also trying to pitch an article to Towards Data Science. That's been one of my dreams, to
Yeah.
be in in that published with them. So let's see what it goes. I'm sorry, I just like
No,
really,
that sounds really good. Good luck with
yeah,
that. Yeah.
it's fun. Thank you. It's fun. But I guess
Yeah.
that's why I've been so sensitive, because data collection, data privacy, using data for good are things that really, really matter. And not just in AI, but in analytics. And I know we have a guest today to talk about this with. That was a good segue.
That was, yeah. So moving from actually using the models and abstracting them, we can talk to somebody who's working with an analytic system that generates the data, which is a very impressive system that's been around for a long time and has always been the front runner in a way in trying to figure out what else should we use than GA. But it's always been kind of out of reach due to its complexity and the engineering required. But it's going to be fun to talking with our guest about it. So we are talking about Snowplow.
Yeah.
Today, hopefully we'll talk about Snowplow. We can also talk about the actual snowplows that should be doing their work outside right now. And we have Jordan Peck, who's a technical account management lead at Snowplow, just a wonderful guy.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk to him about what it's like to work for a company that builds these kinds of behemoth systems. And Juliana has some thoughts about analytic systems that do a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't know what's wrong.
No, you can continue your rant. That's going to be your second rant today. That's good.
I'm so ranty. I don't know what's wrong with me lately. Normally I try to keep it at one. But before we let Jordan in, I have to embarrass you again. Unless unless you want me to use the one you did the last time.
No. Yeah, so hello, friends. It's Simo Ahava from Simmer here. We are an online course platform. We are the proud sponsors of this podcast, and we do courses around technical marketing. And if you're wondering what technical marketing is, then we've written this handy technical marketing handbook that you can find at handbook.teamsimmer.com. And you can use the coupon code DEVIATE, that's DEVIATE, for a 10% discount from all individual course purchases. So that's deviate at teamsimmer.com. No, that sounds like an email address. It's use the coupon code DEVIATE when you browse to teamsimmer.com. Don't send email to deviate at teamsimmer.com.
Imagine.
I don't know what's going to happen if you said we don't have a deviate at work, so I don't know what that's going to happen.
We should make it.
We should have a deviate.
Get our fan
a deviant.
Deviant.
Yeah. Anyway, let's go to Jordan. Oh, nice. Did I find it in the first try? I always have to check this because I have a soundboard, but I can't hear what is actually coming out of it. So it's always kind of a guessing game.
You're always on time with
as long as it's not the sad trombone.
Exactly.
Yeah, because I do have that as well.
I saw you lean in, and I was like...
I did. I was leaning into the soundboard. It's like a super physical thing.
I didn't know if you had like the golden start button, the big red start button.
No, there's actually an audience of people just outside the camera cheering. I have a super analog soundboard. So, Jordan Peck, how are you?
I'm really good. Good to be here, Simo, Juliana. Really good to be here. Been a while since we've been trying to set this up, isn't it? But
it's almost coming up a year. We started I think we started last June.
Why are you calling us out like that, man?
No, not calling anybody out. It's just things get in the way, isn't it? But
but we're such an important and popular podcast that a year is just a normal runway time that we need for guests.
Yeah, exactly. And I've got things on. I've got things.
I know. On, so, yeah. You've got a busy life. You've got a busy life as well.
But you're here now, which is all that matters, and really excited to talk to you because actually, I before I met you and I just hit my mic. I'm sorry. Oh my god.
It doesn't matter.
No, I just I'm here. So. Before I actually got to meet you, I always noticed how helpful you are on Measure Slack in the community, and every time a question came up about Snowplow, you're there and you're helping people and supporting them. And I was like probably one of the first people that in my immediate marketing experimentation community that actually learned about you guys, and then I met you, and I'm just like super excited about talking to you today because I know Snowplow does care a lot about community and supporting the community. So I guess my first question is like, how did you end up working there? Were you always into, analytics and SQL and data and stuff?
I don't know. I'll start at the beginning. So like, I originally started working in digital marketing like 2012. It's like 12 years ago. At in a digital marketing agency here in Leeds where I'm based, and originally started out as a link builder. So one of those annoying people who would email webmasters asking for guest posts for clients who you'd never heard of, all that kind of stuff. did that for a while, and then kind of got more into sort of overall SEO and technical auditing of websites, and site crawls and ranking reports and all that kind of stuff, and which is inherently an analytical kind of endeavor, understanding like what changes you've made to a website and what effects that then has on how a website performs or whatever. So did that for a bit, thought I wanted to work in marketing, so I became like a more overall generic digital marketer. So I did like social media ads, some paid search, some display, some like digital strategy, some a bit more SEO, all that kind of stuff. And realized I wasn't going to work for McKinsey or Ogilvy anytime soon, and was more preferred kind of like looking into stuff and why, if I did something on a website or a digital channel or something, what happened afterwards, and like why what I did and why I did it differently this time made something else happen this time. So then kind of became a digital analyst. So that's when I first started coming across Google Analytics and Google Tag Manager, and reading Simo's blog on how to tag up forms and set universal analytics up and do everything like that. And at this time I was at a small agency, and I was like the marketing analytics guy, and so I tagged up all the websites that we worked on and made reports and this, that, and the other. And around 2015 or so, my head of tech at the time we were trying to build like a home built CDP, we called it at the time. The idea that you could collect behavioral data, collect what people were doing on the website, merge that with like old, classic transactional purchase behavior, even like demographic data, merge that all together, and then use that to send better emails or use that to personalize the website, is what we would call a classic CDP at this point. But this is, nearly 10 years ago. And I was like, for web tracking, we'll use GA because GA is really good at that. And as we looked into it, we realized GA wasn't really very good for it. Mainly because we only had the client only had the free GA. So we couldn't get like, this user performed this event at this time, 6 months after they performed this other event, not reliably, not easily anyway. So my head of tech actually was the one who started Googling around. I think he said he originally Googled around for open source JavaScript tracker and came across the Snowplow JavaScript repo. Anyway, we ended up bringing on Snowplow into the business. And for those of you who maybe not who are listening who aren't aware, Snowplow is this cloud-first behavioral data collection platform, which allows you to do a lot of things, but for a very long time didn't allow you to sort of visualize any data you collected. So basically, it loaded all the data into Amazon Redshift data warehouse. And then from there, it was kind of off you go. Go figure. Snowplow assumed you knew what you wanted to do with the data once you collected it. And it's like, right, well, go figure it out from there. And I had never written a line of SQL in my life. I thought it was pronounced squeal. My head of tech knew SQL a little bit, and he helped me out, but I didn't know what I was doing at all. I honestly had no clue. I was in that work at Snowplow. We use a ticketing system. Our customer support system actually has all of the tickets I created when I was a customer back in 2015-16. And I could see all of the private internal notes from all of the support staff saying, like, why is this guy asking this question again? Like, we told him this like 3 weeks ago. Like, isn't he
Oh, that's embarrassing.
Yeah, it's quite a weird way to see me now on the other side. Yeah, but so I had to learn a lot of like technical stuff. I had to learn through great resources such as yourselves, learn how to understand how front-end data collection works, and I got quite comfortable with that. But then we had this AWS pipeline that ran on EC2 and S3 and Amazon Redshift, and there was EMR clusters, and there was Scala processes and batch processing, and self-healing architecture and all this kind of cloud stuff, which was completely alien to me, and I had absolutely no idea like how any of it worked, and had to just like. But in the space of about 18 months, we built a custom. We had Puma as a client at the time. We built a custom CDP that would basically allowed you to, like, if you were like a weekend football team, like a Saturday league football team, and you wanted to print your own shirt out with your own crest and sponsor and own names and numbers on the back, you went to this Puma team website, and we had like a kit builder and stuff. So we tracked you building kits, saving kits, adding numbers and names to it, purchasing like 20 shirts and 20 shorts. Depending on what you ordered, you then got a personalized email with your kit in the email itself. Like really, that kind of, you know, duct tape and glue and dreams, but it all kind of stuck together and worked. And Snowplow powered the whole thing. And by the end of it, I was writing all of the SQL commands, the data modeling commands to merge browsing data, email data, interactions on different parts of the website, and turning that into segments, which we then use to email. Our marketing team were then able to send emails through. So yeah, that's how I kind of came across it. I worked at another agency between then, and then I joined Snowplow in 2020. And now I lead the technical account management team. So hopefully helping our enterprise customers get the most out of Snowplow. So that's me, I guess. That's a little windy intro as to how I got where I am today.
So in a world dominated by like UI-driven analytics tools, was Snowplow back then, you know, when it was still mainly a pipeline, was it a difficult sell? Like, was it a difficult pitch for your customers and your partners? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and how did you manage it? Like, how did you do it? How did you get the message through?
With difficulty, frankly. I mean, and that was more on us rather than the tool. Snowplow's always been a very specialized tool, and you needed to be the right kind of person or the right kind of business, the right kind of position in terms of technical maturity and data maturity in order for it to make sense. The way we tried to package it up at the time was to not say that you were buying a Snowplow pipeline, and hopefully try and keep Snowplow out of it. We were essentially trying to be almost like a packaged white labeled reseller, and say you get what we built on top of it. So we've got this enterprise grade cloud native pipeline that does all this fancy stuff that you don't really need to worry about, but we've built this cool these capable functionalities on top. We built a reporting suite on top of it using Metabase. We use SendGrid for emails, which we synced up to Redshift. So we got data coming in from emails, and also we could power the emails going out. And so we did quite a lot, and we had quite a compelling package by the end. The problem was really finding the right sort of customers who needed that kind of CDP kind of functionality and weren't ready to just go buy segment or just go buy, a particle or whatever product at the time, because those sorts of softwares were and are still very expensive. So it's interesting as you mentioned it earlier, Juliana, we may come on to it. At the time, for a long time, Snowplow was a platform sell. You sold it as a platform and people would build things on top of it. What we then tried to do was try to sell the full stack, the full application, the full package on top of the platform. Which is somewhat changing in the last sort of 6 to 9 months, I would say. But at the time, and for historically, Snowplow's been around for a long time, since 2011, I think. It's always been a platform sell. It's always been there to enable smart analysts to do better analytics than what the package UI tools generally provide.
And it was, I think that early on it was, I don't know if it was actually on the site as a pitch, but it was like this do-yourself analytics system. That was kind of the, and back then I remember, because I wrote a guide for, GCP and AWS as well, way back when. I remember that it felt, of course, it felt cool to build your own analytics system, but at the same time, it just felt super over-engineered, because you're used to abstractions, like you're used to just subscribing to a tool and then everything happens for you. So having, seeing how the sausage is made isn't necessarily a very rewarding experience, because you see that there's a tracker library, then a collector server, then an enrichment flow. And I'm wondering, right now it actually seems almost prescient in a way that you because now everybody's kind of looking towards those things because they need to control the data flows, and transparency is something that needs to be baked in. So using a black box has become almost precarious in the age of GDPR and where location of servers is critical and so on. So it kind of feels like it's almost vindicating Snowplow's approach. I don't know if it fixes the thing that it still feels over-engineered, but it kind of has vindicated the approach of actually building a self-service analytics system.
So it's interesting. Like one of the sort of ways we've sort of pitched ourselves for a while was that companies like Netflix or Spotify, they're not using. Maybe someone will come out the woodwork and tell me they are, but they're not really probably using someone like Google Analytics or even someone like Adobe Analytics to power. The Spotify aren't using that to power for their own personalization system, which is the core of Spotify's product. Netflix, the same, right? They probably have an extremely high grade, low tolerance, enterprise real-time streaming service built on their own proprietary tech. Now, the Snowplow position was you could basically get that tech. You can get tech that's been built by a dedicated team for 10 years, but you don't have to have Netflix's budget. You don't have to have Netflix's or Spotify's team of engineers. And then there's this thing about like whether you did it yourself, like you did Simo, like where you actually set it up and ran it yourself or would run it yourself. And some of our Snowplow's most early adopters, ABC, the Australian Broadcasting Company, Vodafone, The Economist, these were the sort of companies that would take this sort of thing up and run it themselves or have the team, the time, the money and the inclination to set it up and run it themselves. Snowplow now, around the time we came up, we worked with them, also had a managed service equivalent to it, where basically the Snowplow company the Snowplow engineers would run the pipeline for you and set it up and run it for you. So you didn't have to be, an SRE and a data engineer and a application developer and a front end developer and a DBA all at the same time to run it yourself. But there's still there was still obviously like complications with doing that in terms of like security and things like that. But it is definitely interesting to see that like we've got people speaking to us all the time, and I speak to people in the industry. I was off Super Week a few months ago and at Measure Camps and on Slack and whatever, hearing people talk about like, oh, we need to know like what server like you say, what country the server's going to be in. And it's kind of interesting because some people have been asking us these types of questions for a long time, like asking us here at Snowplow, but asking much more severe questions, like detailed questions, like what logs explicitly come out of your collector application? What's in them? How long do they persist? Who then has access to them? Right? We were getting those questions like several years ago now, and now by the very, very kind of forward-thinking people in terms of privacy and security and legislation and things like that. And now people are asking questions, where's GA4 servers? It's like that's like 4 years on, and it's like 10% of the interrogation that we were getting like years ago. But I think it is definitely moving that way. And at some point, it won't be enough for Google to say, oh yeah, we have EU-based servers. Like they'll have to offer more transparency because it will be, well, first of all, people won't trust them. But second of all, the EU and the regulatory bodies will make them. Because they won't believe them otherwise. So yeah, it's a interesting state to have been in and watched the industry move that way.
And similarly, you have like server-side tagging has become easy and low cost to deploy. So people are now excited about the fact that they can just directly write to BigQuery and directly write to a data warehouse instead of going through an analytics platform. And again, this is what you got when you install Snowplow. You had a direct write. It goes through enrichment, it goes through processing and so on. But you could technically just build, a direct write to a warehouse and just use the tracker and collector. So I think that I'm still wondering about it still seems like if you're used to a certain type of analytics system, moving to Snowplow is still a big leap in terms of maturity, in terms of cost, in terms of... So I'm wondering, how do you see this? Let's say, because I have a gut feeling. So my gut feeling, you can check me on this. My gut feeling is that Snowplow is not a a normal migration path from GA, for example. It's not like what you would recommend to the bulk of marketing analytics people who use GA. Like Snowplow isn't an evolution. It seems to serve like a completely different track where you have the maturity and maybe even the data to collect that kind of telemetry, build those CDPs, have full control over the pipeline, basically take responsibility for everything that GA does for you, and then some, and then add all these enrichment, add all these different schemas, all these different, multi-source
models,
source collection. Yeah, exactly. So
And have
where
the
do
right
you see?
people that can
Yeah,
do
exactly.
this.
Yeah. So how would you position Snowplow in the global market of digital analytics? Like where does it fit in?
So I've always said, and I've worked with Snowplow on the side of being a customer, a much older version than Snowplow we have today, but I was on the customer side, and obviously now I'm on the side of the vendor itself. And I've always said that, like broadly, Simo, you're correct. I think your gut feel is correct. Like if you've got like a digital analytics team of 2 and some front end developers and a back end developer, like running Snowplow yourself really probably is not an option, for other reasons as well. But even if you were to come to us and pay us some money to run it for you, like, there's still so much that you are going to have to do yourself, which is going to be challenging. We work with companies like Strava and Burberry and Condé Nast and DPG Media in West Europe, like huge teams and huge companies who do have the dedicated, even though we run the pipeline for them, even though we get the bat signals at 3 a.m. on a Saturday night when the pipelines are broken and we come and fix it so they don't have to, even though we roll out patches and upgrades and everything else, like they still have to put the tracking on the website. They still have to choose how they want the data to be enriched and provide us with the config. They have to then handle the data once it's in Snowflake or BigQuery or wherever.
Yeah.
So, having said that, though, it is an admirable aim and an aim that we've had at Snowplow for at least the 3.5 years I've been at Snowplow, to make Snowplow easier to use. It is a very admirable aim and something that so there's like 2 directions here. Like on the one side, you're right. Like Snowplow, if you're just happy with the GA interface, and less than 1 million hits a day or something to get into BigQuery, like that's probably good for you. Like it's just keep. I mean, GA4 still sucks, but like that setup is still fine. That setup is still good. There's no need for you to push the boat out. Like you wouldn't still tell people like that they should go to Adobe either. So, but on the other hand, like we are making efforts to make Snowplow easy to use, and we have more out of the box data models. When I was a customer back in my day, Snowplow loaded to an events table, which is 1 row per event, and like that was kind of it. Kind of similar to what GA4 does, but basically like here's a massive events table with at least 140 columns. Like go figure out what you do from here. Now we have data models that produce page view sessions users, handles web and mobile data, creates an e-commerce data set for you. We can do media data models, so you can look at video plays or audio plays. All this kind of comes out of the box for you. We have data models to handle consent, plugin trackers to handle consent managers. Like we do a lot of this now that we never did before. And we've even started offering like light visualization capabilities inside the Snowplow hosted console as well, which again hopes to ease that migration path from something like Analytics or MGA to something like Snowplow, so that you can essentially get your tracking engineers, a GTM team, or front end developers to put Snowplow tracking in place in a guided way, and then auto deploy data model and have a working marketing analytics dashboard, which is what you'd want from GA, right? And this is hopefully what you get. I mean, we intend for you to still customize your data collection and create your own data models and customize all of the pipeline to your own particular needs, as you should do. But we also appreciate that some people just want to see traffic by device, and some people just want to see top landing pages, and they don't want to have to write semi-complicated DBT code in order to do it, or write any SQL at all, or have to have a Tableau license in order to do it. So we appreciate that there's things we can do to make those bits easier for those kinds of users. Because I still think that I work at Snowplow, you don't have to believe me, but I think Snowplow's the best product in the market for it. I think we're the best at what we do. It's why I joined the company, right? And you both knew me before I joined the company, and you both know that's what I said anyway. So hopefully you can at least vouch for my authenticity and honesty. But
no, he's full of crap.
Well, fully.
This was just an elaborate sales pitch.
Yeah. but
that's good.
But it's like, so I do think that
Yeah.
with a really, really good setup, you can do the best digital analytics. And like, you know, I mentioned earlier about building CDPs or building recommendation services or personalization services, but like Snowplow, we were originally called Snowplow Analytics. Snowplow was built originally. There's the anecdote is our two co-founders used to be consultants, and they would go into a business and they would be like, oh, we want to analyze some of your data. And they were like, the client would say, yeah, we got this data warehouse full of our customer data. Here's a DVD with all the export from our data warehouse. Like, go nuts.
Nice.
No. And then the guys would be like, oh, you've got a really cool website and a mobile app. Can we look at the analytics for that? And they go, here's a GA login. And we're like, that's a bit frustrating. So there's a long-winded way of saying, like, Snowplow was built as an analytics platform, and it does allow you. I think Snowplow with a really good setup will be the best digital analytics setup that you can do in terms of like most detailed understanding of what people are doing on your apps.
Do you think that because so I know Snowplow before GA4 back in the days, and I was using it to replace RuderStack and other stuff at CXL when I was there, because long story short, we brought Snowplow to CXL because we needed a solution because we had so much fucking data and video data that we couldn't do with regular tools. Especially when you have online courses, you want to see when people pause, what is the exact pause, when do they go back to the same thing.
I was going to say, churn, noticing churn before it happens.
Exactly. So for video analytics, there wasn't other better tool than Snowplow for us. But what I want to ask is that, given that GA4 came and like kind of kicked a lot of people from their comfort zone, because people were very comfortable, and I'm not saying that's anything wrong with it, to be comfortable with the UI interface and do your thing and stuff like that. But now more people are forced into learning SQL, more data engineers are needed. Even if you use GA4, you still need some sort of data engineering, some data scientists. Like, you kind of need the type of resources to make it work for you. So do you feel like because these extra resources are needed into that context of GA and whatever, do you feel that more people are now understanding what Snowplow does, or are more eager to adopt a more complex solution that requires obviously people that can fix those complex things?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think when I was a digital analyst, when I was just a GTM analyst, I think that there was, and I think Simo's written about it, I think you might have both written about this before, there almost seemed a resistance to having to become technical and having to even be called technical, right? And like, that doesn't fly anymore. Like, people ain't got a choice anymore. Like, they are being dragged kicking and screaming into a world where they have to be able to understand properly even basic things like how a web server works, like how front end tracking works, like what the difference between inspect elements and view sources, right? And they have to be like SEOs, PPC people, all of them, all digital marketing and all digital analytics have been and GA4 is doing a lot of the heavy work. I actually spoke about this at Super Week, where like, I actually think that when GA4 first came out and said that we're going to give you all a BigQuery export for free, and even when they like truncated the hit amount, I was like, this is great. Like, people are going to start doing what I did like years ago. And like, learning SQL was one of the best things I ever did. Learning like cloud was one of the best things I ever did. Like, it's been so helpful in my career. It helped me. It makes understanding other things so much more easy, so much more straightforward. I was like, this is like, everyone's going to have to benefit from this now. This is great. GA botched it. I think Google well and truly botched the whole the whole approach. But like this whole thing, and you've had enough people come on here and slag GA far off, but I honestly thought that what they did was a great idea. It was a great thing for the industry. It was a great way to modernize the industry. It was a great way to, like I said, drag the industry kicking and screaming into a world where they had to be serious about these things. And the way that people are having to learn these things is Google could have done more. Google could have, in that they could have offered more enablement. They basically were like, this is what Snowplow used to do. Here's a big events table. Like, go on. And then everyone has to learn independently, even though there's great resources. Like there's is it Johan's GA4 BigQuery website where you tell it what you want and it gives you a big SQL query. There's forums, Measure Slack, BigQuery channel, all that kind of stuff. But basically people are having to discover these things as they go. Oh, okay, I want top landing pages. Now I want top landing pages over time. Now I want to split it by geo. Oh, but I also want to add these conversions in. No, now I have to do this crazy subquery unnest hit. No, it's not called unnest hits, but whatever it is nowadays. Like, oh my God, this is so complicated, right? And then someone else like 10 miles over in a different office is having to do the same thing. Everyone's like discovering this as they go. It's like Google should have offered more guidance there. They should have offered better patterns, and depending on how conspiracy theory minded you are, you may say Google were incentivized to not do that because it means people would rack up massive BigQuery bills because they didn't know what they were doing. Depends where you fall on that.
Yeah, and I've never subscribed to the other conspiracy theory that BigQuery is somehow Google's big plan to get people into the GCP, because it's first of all, it's just sense what they're getting. Like it's
I disagree.
And also
I
that.
disagree.
Oh, you disagree with that they are actually pushing people? Because I'm also
go on.
Because there's also the question that it can't be an OKR, like an objective of an analytics team here, to siphon all of their users into GCP team here, because they have completely different incentives. And if Google realizes that the analytics team is just high end funnel for GCP, they're going to get rid of analytics. Like for sure, they're going to run it down. It's not profitable enough.
So my feeling on this is Google Cloud's strategy is sell more BigQuery. Every single new GCP release, they just had Google Cloud Next a couple of weeks ago. Every single new Google Cloud release is about getting more people to use BigQuery because it's their marquee flagship product and it's awesome, frankly. I work with all four of the big data warehouses, or big cloud data warehouses, Redshift, BigQuery, Snowflake, Databricks on a regular basis. Databricks and Snowflake get a lot of hype, but I think Google BigQuery is my personal favorite one to use. I think it has the best features. I think it's easiest to use. I think it's best for most people. BigQuery ML is fantastic. BigQuery Canvas that they launched, BigQuery Studio, Vertex AI hooks into it, Dataflow, PubSub. I think it's great. And Google realized they have such a great product and they are centering BigQuery at everything they do with GCP. So GCP's strategy, in my mind, is sell more BigQuery and get people hooked in BigQuery.
But that doesn't translate to the profitability of the analytics team. So no. The problem here is that if you think about the average GA user who now enables the BigQuery export because a bunch of people said to do so on a podcast, they're not going to become GCP users. They're going to run a couple of queries in BigQuery, get super frustrated, and probably ditch GA in the long run and start using something else. Like that's the long tail of marketing analytics.
But there's also the GCP lock-in. I know a number of customers who. Well, sorry, let me start again. When I was at Super Week, and I've seen talks from those MeasureCamp Amsterdam at the weekend and MeasureCamp London I was at in September. That community exclusively talk about GCP. So when you get people like Dennis, I forget his surname, from Stape, or even Doug Hall, or people who are talking about doing clever cloud stuff, it's all on GCP. Now, why is it all on GCP? Because Google have very cleverly, and for the most part, pretty well, connected all of the digital marketing tools that digital analytics tools, which we all love and have worked with for a number of years, very nicely into the GCP GCP architecture. GTM server side, Ads Data Hub, Google Ads Data Transfer, BigQuery, all these things. So what happens then is those companies get hooked into GCP. So then it's like, oh, well, we're going to launch our new app. What are we going to architect it on? Well, why don't we architect it on, GKE on GCP or on just Cloud VMs or App Engine or Cloud Run or something like that, right? And then because GCP, and this is a surprise to many people in our corner of the industry, GCP lags a long way behind AWS and Microsoft Azure, long way behind, and it's only got bigger in the last couple of years. It's interesting what you made of, maybe it was a throwaway comment, Simo, about how they might close GA down. I don't think that's out of the question. I really don't. I think this is giving them so much pain and heartache and for pretty minuscule.
No, I get what you're saying. I think that my argument is just that the likelihood. So here's the flow. You use GA4, you're frustrated with the UI, and then you learn that you can have a BigQuery export, and this supposedly opens up a lot of doors for you. So then you turn on the BigQuery export, enter BigQuery, and just see a text editor where you have to type some SQL in. So then you have to learn
get some more pain. You get some more pain.
So my counter argument against this conspiracy theory is that I don't think it's first of all, the money coming in from those queries is just pennies. With the long tail of GA accounts that are plugged into BigQuery. It's free tier almost always. And the second is that I don't think that if your first touch with cloud is BigQuery, you're looking like at a pebble of sand on the beach and extrapolating what the world looks like from that. Because cloud is still infrastructure. Like that's what cloud is. That's the benefit of the cloud is rented infrastructure. Millions of applications on top of that for sure. But if Google can turn those BigQuery users, convert them into infrastructure users, I don't think there's a this is just gut feeling. I have no data to back this, but I don't think that it's as profitable. What I think BigQuery is in GA4 is a side effect that was enabled because it was already in Firebase, and it's just a happy coincidence that it's become such a popular way of accessing GA4 data and keeping people in GA4 who might have otherwise bolted a while ago. Like me, I'm still using GA4 through BigQuery because I think it's a decent enough event model for that. But if GA4 were just the UI, I haven't touched the UI in years. Like I haven't been using GA4
a long time ago.
Exactly. So I think that's my argument. If Google converts GA4 users from BigQuery into like cloud spenders, then that's a really good, and this certainly enables that. But I don't think it's as like
scale,
like as funnily as one would expect. I completely agree with you when you say that. I think it's really cool that people are now quote unquote forced to learn the rope. But I think it does go against I think there's a certain amount of irony in that as time goes by and we should evolve into having more, our system should be more capable of accommodating their users. We are actually taking steps back in a way away from an abstracted UI reality into accessing the raw data, which I don't think that many people are prepared for. What they would expect I think instead would be to have like, the next evolution would be to have this AI assistant who you just tell you, show me the data, and then it will do everything for you.
It goes back to what we were talking in the intro.
But yeah, we could talk about this, for hours. But we have to
I was going to say, like, I guess, like, and maybe it's selection bias, certainly maybe potentially bias of the people I look at and speak to and people I follow on LinkedIn and people I see at conferences and stuff. But like, you see a bunch of people who are like agencies or big brands who are saying like, we're using GA4 and we're using BigQuery. Oh, and now we've started using GTM server side. We're running it on Google Cloud Run because Google told us to use GTM server side. And our agency told us to use GTM server side. And now we've built this really, really cool thing where Doug Hall and Zoltan were talking about, I forget his name, Zoran, we're talking about doing the GTM server side with the Google ads to do bidding based on lifetime value and all this kind of stuff. And all
it
that
does all kind of wrap together nicely.
So and maybe it is just the people I'm speaking to, the people I've seen, but it certainly seems to me that Google have hooked that group of people. Yeah. And that's you're right, because there's a huge long tail of normal GA users who aren't going to move on to GCP. And like that, I don't think is the point for Google anyway, but we're working with incomplete information, aren't we?
they've built an impressive system of getting, especially like targeting the marketing analytics group, and not just application builders, which used to be the target, or infrastructure engineers, but they have built an impressive machine for marketing analytics folks as well. But it's still, there's still a couple of hurdles to pass before you get there if you're coming from a purely UI-driven analytics world. But anyway, sorry, we are going to have to wrap up. This has been a lovely discussion. We just got to the good part, so we're going to have to have another talk about. We have another talk with you, Jordan, if you want to come on later.
I'd love to be back if you'll have me.
Yeah,
for sure. But when are you going to start the blog to actually write about this stuff? Or do you have a blog and I'm embarrassed?
Blogging is so 19th century.
Why not? Like you would do so good. Like
I've written bits and pieces before. I wrote a blog post for Dataform, the old Dataform website, which I enjoyed and stuff. I just don't have the time. I could do, but I write really long. Like when I write long pieces and I have to cut it down, and I don't know. I should do.
You should, because I know you from what you talk to other people, and I think it would be super useful to have more people that come from your experience to share and teach other people. So it was really nice to have you in the podcast today. Where can people find you and get in touch with you?
Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm Jordan Peck at Snowplow. And you can get me on the Measure Slack if you're on there. I hang around. I hang around less in the GTM channels than I used to, mainly because I can't help out as much as I used to. Yeah. But you can find me in the BigQuery channels, the Data Warehouse channels, or Measure, or any of the other ones if you're interested in.
And Snowplow, of course.
And there's not anything else, Snowplow stuff. If you're interested in anything we talk about, anything we're working at Snowplow, let me know.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming today.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll see you guys next time.